Hi there, Zam here for NerdTube. These are my thoughts and spoilers of episode 2 of House of the Dragon, The Rogue Prince. So episode 1 was basically a reminder of what Game of Thrones is all about. Sex and violence, brutality, castration, skullduggery, all of that shit. And this episode 2 that is, kind of gets you back into the swing of things of what Game of Thrones is, which is the politicking and underhanded affairs amongst all these different factions, all trying to not necessarily get onto the Iron Throne, but definitely have a promotion within their lives and have a stronger standing, so to speak. King Viserys is basically coming across as a weak leader, somebody who wants us to have not necessarily parties, but tournaments, and not necessarily focus on the more important things that are kind of encroaching on Westeros and his realm, because he just feels that there's no need to worry about these things. And one of those things is the crab eater, the crab feeder, I believe. And this guy, he starts this episode. Now we don't necessarily see him, but we see the aftermath of him, because we're on the stepstones and Westerosians are being eaten alive by crabs, and it's fucking horrendous, and I love it. But we don't stay with that scene for too long. We mainly follow King Viserys around in this episode, some of the decisions he has to make, because a lot of people are on his case to get married. You see, we have a time jump of several months, and because of that time jump, people think, okay, you mourned your wife enough, time to get married and possibly have a male heir. That way you don't have to worry about putting your daughter on the Iron Throne if you pass, because he denounced Daemon Targaryen as the heir, because what he did last week, pissing him off, calling his dead son heir for a day or heir for an hour or some shit like that. So the unprecedented move of having a woman being the heir to the throne is happening now with Rhaenyra, and this is not making people too happy. And people are playing the Game of Thrones in this episode. Lord Valerian, the black guy with the white hair, I think his name is Corlius or something like that. I'm going to call him Lord Valerian now, his wife being the queen that never was. Their plan is to marry their daughter to King Viserys. You see, Valerian has his own issues regarding the crab eater. We see that at the beginning of this episode as well. He marches in on the king's council, telling them about this crab eater guy, crab feeder guy, killing off, the locals and ruining some of the shipping lanes for him. And if those shipping lanes do get ruined, then he's kind of crippled from it, because I think, a lot of his stuff is to do with, trading and importing and exporting. So he needs that shit to continue. But Viserys doesn't want anything to do with that, so his next course is obviously to try and marry his daughter off to King Viserys. Now, his daughter happens to be King Viserys' cousin and niece. As we all know, the Targaryens, the Valerians, they're all about that interbreeding, intersexing, intershagging, and all of that sort of shit. So this is nothing out of the ordinary for him to still have an incestual relationship. His own wife was his first wife, that is, was his cousin anyway. So this is nothing out of the blue. But Valerian's daughter is like 12 years fucking old, and it is a very, very when I say disturbing scene, in the sense that King Viserys doesn't come across as a pedo. At the same time, he's very uncomfortable with doing all of this, because this girl is just maybe a few years younger than his own daughter. And this all feels like a sense of duty. And then when it comes up, regarding marriage and having children and stuff, this girl says she'll do it all. She's happy to bed him when she's 14 and shit. This coming from a fucking child is fucked. But this is the world we live in, and it's just crazy like that. And the parents are really proud of this. They want their child to marry this man who looks like he's in his 50s. It's fucking fucked. This man who happens to be his cousin and maybe uncle as well. Yeah, it's very very weird and not cool at all. But that's how these fucking people are. But we do see a twist during the course of all of this, because near the end of this episode, when King Viserys announces that he will get married, he doesn't say that he will marry this young lady. I think her name was Lyanna Valerian. He says he'll marry Alicent instead, which is Rhaenyra's best friend and the Hand of the King, Otto Hightower's daughter. Now this makes Otto Hightower very happy, because he's already the hand of the king. But if his daughter becomes queen, boom, that makes him even more fucking powerful. So yeah, he's pretty cool about that. This pisses off Lord Valerian as well, because he thinks this is like blasphemy that he's marrying outside of the Targaryen sort of creed, so to speak. And we see Lord Valerian playing the Game of Thrones when it comes to, then colluding with Daemon Targaryen. And that's also at the end of this episode. And I'll get to that in a second, because Daemon Targaryen is the Rogue Prince, but we don't see much of the Rogue Prince in this episode. But we do see him on Dragonstone when everyone else finds out that he's taken over Dragonstone. He has the city watch with him as his army, and he's planning to rule or some shit like that. He has a whore as his sort of mistress who will have his child, and this person will be the new heir to the Iron Throne after Daemon finished becoming king and all of that. There's so much going on here, and Otto Hightower decides to confront him, and he brings Creston Cole, who's one of the new King's Guard as well, hired by Rhaenyra, and they have a heated conversation, Otto Hightower and Daemon Targaryen, and it almost comes to arms, especially when Otto Hightower starts talking about Daemon's partner being a whore and their son being a bastard, and the bastard will never be, never be king of the Iron Throne and all of that sort of shit. But before things get too heated, Rhaenyra comes along on the dragon, confronts her uncle, and basically calls his bluff and says, "Kill me. I'm the heir to the Iron Throne. Kill me." And he doesn't. And Daemon also has this egg as well, and the dragon eggs are a part of the tradition of the Targaryens, so he gives that back as well. I think this egg was initially with Rhaenyra's late brother, who died when he was only like an hour old or so, some shit like that. So Daemon stole that egg, but then he gives it back, so certain things have calmed down a little bit. But Daemon's partner is not too happy either. She doesn't want to be a fucking breeding ground, and she doesn't want to face fear either. Being a whore for most of her life, all she's known is fear, but being with Daemon Targaryen, she believes that something like fear will be something, a thing of the past. But I don't think she realizes that as long as you're associated with royalty, you always have to look over your back, because there's somebody who's going to try and take your place, especially if you're the partner to the, you're a partner to the king, then somebody else might feel that they could be the partner to the king. So regardless of whatever position you're in life, you always have to look over your back, especially in this particular part of the world. But when we do see Lord Valerian and Daemon Targaryen talking and colluding with each other near the end of this episode, we do find out that this guy, the crab feeder, he's causing a lot of problems, and King Viserys doesn't want to take this shit seriously. Lord Valerian, he might be playing the game and pitting sides against each other and all of that sort of stuff, but he does see the bigger picture. This guy's fucking with the Targaryens on their land, and King Viserys is not doing anything about it, and he wants something done before they could get crippled and ruined economically before, and then after that maybe physically as well, if the Targaryens come across as weak. So there's just all of that have to be dealt with. Not only that, but King Viserys has also got his medical problems as well. The finger that he cut last week is infected now after several months. It hasn't healed. It's getting worse. He had to put his hand in maggots and to eat away the dead flesh, and hopefully that will work, because that's what the Grand Maester says. I doubt that will work, and as well as the Legion growing on his back from last week as well, and probably being a target now because people think of him as a weak king, and they probably want his throne. So I do think he'll be dead by the end of the season if things go according to plan. Not looking good for him. Now he's married Alicent as well. This is going to piss off a lot of people. It really is. It's just, what a great episode. There's so much happening, and I'm sure I haven't even brought up everything, but wow, what an episode. This is Game of Thrones, baby, and we still haven't been introduced properly to the crab feeder just yet. We saw a quick glimpse of him at the end of this episode with more people being eaten alive by crabs. But yeah, he's definitely going to be one of the antagonists, because everyone's an antagonist, so to speak. There's no real heroes. Initially, Otto Hightower came across as a noble guy, but this episode he came across as kind of slimy, almost Littlefingerish, so to speak. There's more to him than meets the eye. He has his own ambitions as well, and he's almost ruling over the king to a degree, Like when the king wanted to go visit Daemon Targaryen on Dragonstone, you know, the Hand of the King said, "I will not allow you to go there, my king. It's too dangerous." Basically telling the king, "Yeah, you can't fucking go." I mean, who can tell that to the king? But he does. He advises the king, but he says, "No, I will not allow it." Basically, commanding the king not to go. So yeah, I do feel that Otto Hightower definitely has his own ambitions, and probably Daemon Targaryen knows there's more to Otto Hightower than being this noble, honest man. He thinks he's full of shit, because to a degree at times Daemon Targaryen's full of shit, but not completely. He's definitely not like Joffrey, nowhere near like Joffrey. He's a little bit more honourable to a degree. I don't think Joffrey was never an honourable person. He was psychotic. Whilst Daemon Targaryen, he's got his own sort of creed and sort of way of doing things. I mean, when Lord Valerian was talking bad mouth about Viserys, even though Daemon Targaryen has issues with Viserys, he wouldn't let Lord Valerian talk bad about him, because that's his fucking brother. Yeah, this is so much. It's deep, layered. I love it. I want more. This is fantastic. Yeah, Game of Thrones, baby. It's good. It's good. And this episode very much was like classic Game of Thrones. I can't wait for the next episode. I'm gonna rank this one right now. 8 out of 10. 8 out of fucking 10. Yeah, this is good shit. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all of that. To NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. Take care, and I'll see you guys next week for some more Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon.